Today, I finally did something I've wanted to do for a long time, and that is start a sports podcast. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sports Raid, hosted by Thompson. You know, I've been wanting to make a sports podcast for probably about a year or two now, and I just never did it. I always was like, I need somebody to do it with me, and I just was lazy about it. And then I just woke up the other day and I'm like, I want to start making videos for the internet and making a podcast. And I went, bought what I needed at Walmart, borrowed a mic from the kid in the room next to me, and I started one. I'm going to end up getting my own mic. And I also have to use my Xbox headset because I forgot a pair of earbuds that wasn't the Apple earbuds. So I couldn't plug them into the laptop because for some reason MacBook doesn't. I also have to use my Xbox headset because I forgot a pair of earbuds that wasn't the Apple earbuds. So I couldn't plug them into the laptop because for some reason MacBook doesn't have an Apple earbud port in their damn laptop, even though it's an Apple product. But that's besides the point. But today, on my way to, I just have to tell this story. I walked out of the res hall today at my school, and I had to go back in because it was that cold outside. Now, it was like 8:30 in the morning, so yeah, it was a little early, so it's going to be colder, but still, I haven't had to go back and wear a jacket since, I would say April. It would probably have to be right around Easter would be the last time. But yeah, other than that, it's a beautiful day out here today. I hope everyone is having a great Friday, and we have a great weekend coming up in sports. Let's get into it. So, Thursday night football. I just don't like Thursday night football to begin with, and I think they picked a bad game. But, I mean, everyone has to have a primetime game, and nobody wants to watch the Texans. The only thing I'm concerned about with the Panthers, though, is they've had a pretty easy start to the season. They got the Jets in week 1, Zach Wilson's first game. Okay. You should win that. They won. I actually didn't look that great in that game. But then they come out in week 2, and their defense looks amazing, and they smack, and their offense too, and they smack the Saints, who had just smacked the Packers around. Now, also, Ian Book was making their substitutions, their rookie quarterback, which is funny because if I was Ian Book, I would have just put myself in. Like, you're down 30 points in the fourth quarter. Why don't you just be like, hey, coach, I'm making the substitutions, I'm going in. I mean, that's what I would have done, but once again, I'm behind the mic, I'm not on the field. But back to the Panthers. I think Sam Darnold is definitely going to have a career year, and he's having one, but the bar is so low that it's kind of hard for him not to have a career year. And no matter how he plays, he's going to look so much better, and he's improved so much because he played with Adam Gase and the Jets. And I think one thing that's helping him is the offensive line is better. They have a run game, even with Christian McCaffrey going down. Chuba Hubbard played decent. They have a run game, but I just don't know if he's good enough to make them a Super Bowl team. I mean, they're 3-0, so I mean, all they can do is play the games on their schedule, so it's a good start for them. But I just don't see the Panthers as true contenders yet. I'm going to need more out of them. Speaking of true contenders, though, I think the Cardinals are the real deal. I think there's something about the Cardinals this year that Kyler Murray just plays with such swagger. I'm a huge Kyler Murray fan, and he plays with some sort of swagger and some style of play that just... I remember when he was coming out of college, and everybody was telling about how he should just play baseball. He's too small. He'll never excel. I mean, he's about to bring the Cardinals... He's the second leading in passing yards. He's second in touchdowns, too. And he's technically third in passing yards, but that's because Sam Darnold's played 3 games and Derek Carr only played 2. But, I mean, he's second in the league in touchdowns. The only thing about him is he has thrown 2 very bad picks. 2 picks that they were horrendous. I just don't know they were just horrible picks. And that's the thing about him, is sometimes he plays with this style that I don't know if he can keep up for a consistent basis. I think he's the real deal, but I think it's going to be hard for him at the same time because he plays with this style of he just gets himself into this situations where it's hard to make a play out of, and he keeps making plays out of it. So, I mean, all he can do is make plays out of it, But at some point, like, can you keep that up for a 17-game season? So I think the Cardinals are the real deal, and they'll make the playoffs. And I think they'll compete in the playoffs. I mean, they're still not my favorite, though. I think they're a contender, but they're not my favorite to win the NFC or win the Super Bowl. But, I mean, Kyler Murray before the season, he was my MVP pick. I thought Kyler Murray was going to win MVP, and I mean, he's doing all he can to win it. I think he's up there right now in the MVP conversation. But it's just I feel like he has to calm down a bit. He has to calm down, not rush so much, like, through the plays, and just there was this one play where he literally had to backpedal and make a throw. And it was on the money, but can you do that for 17 straight games? I mean, if he does, then I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. But I think that for the Cardinals to be able to take that next step to go not just from a contender to a favorite, Kyler Murray is going to have to play a more calm, more patient game. And yeah, one of the advantages of Kyler Murray is his running ability. I'm aware of that. But at the same time, you can use your legs when you need to. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes doesn't put himself in bad passing situations. Patrick Mahomes uses his legs and uses his absurd abilities to put a ball anywhere to help him in a situation when he needs to make those plays. Kyler Murray kind of forces himself into those plays. And another thing is, there was a few plays I was watching from that first game against the Titans. He would take like 9-10 step drops. Like, you can't be doing that because your offensive line has no chance of protecting you then. You can't be taking 9, 10, 11, 12 step drops and expect your offensive line to protect you. Because that was part of the issue for the Cardinals last year, is the offensive line couldn't protect Kyler Murray. They've done a better job this year, but he's not helping them this year. I think he's automatically assuming that he's going to get pressure instantly. But I just feel like he just needs to play more patient, more calm, and not take such big drops. Like, that's something that's always irked me with quarterbacks, is when they take these massive dropbacks, like 11, 12, 13 steps. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't play that way of football for 17 weeks and expect to be a favorite to win. You're going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt if he keeps playing the way he is. I mean, he got hurt last year playing like this. Now, last year wasn't as much of his fault, but he still got hurt playing like this last year. But I mentioned Kyler Murray as an MVP candidate. What I want to do now is I'm going to give you my top 5 MVP candidates through week 2. Now, there's 1 or 2 guys on this list that I don't think will stay on this list for very long. But right now, they're top 5 candidates. So we're going to start off with number 5, Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is playing on probably one of the worst football teams I have ever seen in my entire life. His only remotely decent weapon is Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks is solid. But when Brandon Cooks is your best weapon with a bad offensive line and with an aging running back room, the fact that they beat the Jaguars and stayed in there with the Browns, if he doesn't get hurt, they might have won that game. He is the most valuable player right now to the Texans because of the fact that there's something about him that he plays well and then gets hurt. And then there it goes. It happened in Cleveland. Happened in LA. I mean, Davis Mills looked okay last night. What were his numbers last night? But let's look at this. I don't think he played great, but Davis Mills had 168 yards and a touchdown. So he played decent for his first start in the NFL as a 4th round pick? Yeah, 4th round pick or 3rd round pick. I mean, he played all right. I mean, he did play good defense too. So, he didn't play bad. I mean, he had 102 yards and a touchdown against the Browns, and he played 3/4 of the game. That's not great, but... And they lost. They didn't... I mean, they hung around, I guess, last night, but they hung around with the Browns when Tyrod Taylor was in. I mean, he literally made something out of nothing for him. Like, everybody thought this team was going 0-17, and Tyrod Taylor not only won them a game, but kept them in against what is supposed to be a top 3 team in the AFC to win. So he's my number 5. My number 4 is a guy who I don't think will be on this list for very long. And that is Derek Carr. Right now, he would have to be a candidate. He's leading the league in passing yards. He's 2-0. He pulled off 2 upsets. But this is what him and the Raiders do. They do this year in and year out. They go out to start the season, and they get a few upsets. Derek Carr plays great. Oh, the Raiders are back. The Raiders are back. Come mid-season, I see an ESPN graphic. Last year, the Raiders were 8-4 and ended up going 9-7. They've done it for like 3 straight years. So I'm going to need to see more before I put him higher on the list. And also, that first half he had against the Ravens was atrocious. He played horrible in that half. He played amazing the other 3 halves of football he's played, but he has played horrendous. So I just can't put him ahead of the other 3 guys yet. If he's still doing this stuff in week 8, if he keeps this up throughout the season, he's gonna win the league MVP. I just don't think he will. And right now, if you're 1/4 of your season you played horrible, I can't say you're the league MVP. My number 3 are my 3 candidates who I think will be here at the end of the season. I think that these guys are going to end up being the top 3 throughout the season. And number 3 is going to be Tom Brady. Say what you want about Tom Brady, about how he has a super team. The fact he is 44 years old and still is leading the league in touchdowns, and the only reason he has any interceptions was because his receivers literally dropped the ball. Those were picks, technically. They count as picks. But anybody who watched those plays knows that there is nothing Tom Brady could have done. Those were drops. Those were not on Tom Brady. Tom Brady is leading the league in touchdowns. He is, I believe, 5th. Yeah, he's 5th in the league in yards. And yeah, he has a super team, but you don't throw 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, which weren't your fault, become 5th in the league in passing, and expect me not to put you up here. Tom Brady, look at the Bucs. The Bucs before Tom Brady got there were nothing. They were a poverty franchise who had a good 2 or 3 year stretch. They had the worst winning percentage in NFL history of all time. And he comes in, and now they won a Super Bowl. Now they're about to contend for another one. Look at the Patriots. They were not good last year. I think they'll be decent this year. And I think the only reason is because of Bill Belichick. But I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady has much to do with each other. I don't think either of them are as good as they are without each other. But it's just, I don't know. I just think there's just no way you can sit there and not tell me Tom Brady is not a top 3 MVP candidate right now. And number 2, I just talked about him. It's Kyler Murray. As much as I was saying about how I think the Cardinals are the real deal, but the only thing holding him back is Kyler Murray's ability, just the way he gets them and he gets himself in such bad situations, those bad picks he threw. That's the reason he's not number 1. But you don't make the plays he did and not get up there. He has 7 touchdowns. He's 2nd in the league in passing yards. He's 2nd in the league in yards per attempt? Yeah, he's 3rd in the league. Sorry, yards per attempt, tied for 3rd in yards per attempt. And he just and the plays he makes with his legs too are unbelievable. He's only been sacked 5 times, which honestly is not that bad for the situations he's been in. And yeah, it's been some his fault, some his offensive line's fault, but there's a reason he's not at number 1, and that's because number 1's Patrick Mahomes. Come on. Patrick Mahomes they would be 2-0. Patrick Mahomes threw his first ever pick in September this and it wasn't a great pick. It was not a great ball he threw. But the fact that I heard people say Patrick Mahomes is digressing already. Is that the word? Digress? I don't know. I'm going to get an English lecture from somebody in my family after they hear this one. But he's digressing already? I've been seeing people talk about that, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 1 pick to 6 touchdowns. He's 3rd in the league in passing yards. And he is, if it wasn't for Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling that ball, they'd be 2-0. He's doing all this with literally no running game. Like, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a fraud. He's not a good running back. He's small. He's not that quick. I mean, he's shifty, but he's not that, like, fast. I think he's a fraud. So, I just think that the top MVP candidate right now has to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's tied with Kyler Murray for third in yards per attempt as well. So let's not forget about that. And I think they would. I mean, I think the Chiefs go like 14-2 this year or 15-2. I think they'll lose the Raiders just because they lose to the damn Raiders every year. But I mean, obviously, I think they're going to win this week. I don't see the Chargers beating them. They're literally, the Chiefs lost that game, and now they're loading up the death beam, pointing it at the galaxy, ready to blow up the NFL because that's what they do. I mean, they did it last year when they lost to the Raiders. They literally ran to the Super Bowl. And the only time they had a bump in the road was when Patrick Mahomes got hurt in the divisional round. And when Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing, like, just look at how different the team is without Patrick Mahomes. It's absurd. So, clear-cut, Patrick Mahomes is the number one MVP candidate right now. Let's talk about some of the games this week. Obviously, I got the Chiefs winning. I just talked about that. I think the Steelers come in. I think the Steelers bounce back against the Bengals. But the game I'm really interested in is the Colts-Titans because we're about to see how good the Titans are compared to how bad the Colts are or how good the Colts are. Like, this is going to be telling on who's going to win the AFC South. Is it going to be the Colts? Is it going to be the Titans? I think it honestly all comes down to how good is Carson Wentz actually with this Colts offense? Because I still like Carson Wentz. And, I mean, he's played. I mean, I haven't really looked at his numbers. I haven't really seen his numbers. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of the Colts this year, not going to lie. They're like, I just don't really have interest in. I mean, he's not throwing for a ton of yards. He doesn't have a lot of touchdowns. He only has one pick. I mean, but they're 0-2. And yeah, they had a tough schedule, but you're still 0-2. So, it's just, I don't know. I think they can beat the Titans. I'm picking the Titans, though. Number 4 is my underdog, sleeper, dark horse of the year. I think the Broncos. The Broncos defense is amazing. They're a top 5 defense, and they have a absurdly easy schedule. I mean, their first, who they play? They played the Giants, the Jaguars, and now the Jets. Now they've run into a tough patch with them. They play the Ravens, the Steelers, the Raiders. But I just think that the Broncos are a serious contender to make the playoffs. I think that they're going to be they're going to end up second in their division. I think the Chargers have too hard of a schedule. I think that the Broncos have such an easy schedule and are so much better than people think. Another team in their division who's playing better than people think are the Las Vegas Raiders. I touched on it a little bit when I talked about Derek Carr. I don't know. I mean, let's see the Raiders' schedule here. I mean, they got the Dolphins this week. Especially with Jacoby Brissett playing, I don't think they win. They're playing the Chargers in LA. That's going to be a very, very big game and very, very telling on where the NFC West is going to go. Then they got the Bears at home, then the Broncos, and then the Eagles, and then they're at their bye week. I mean, they have a pretty easy schedule too. Like, their schedule's pretty easy. I mean, the Chargers tough, so the Bears are going to be tough. The Broncos, but then they got the Eagles, the Giants, then they run into the Chiefs. So I think the Raiders beat the Chiefs. They do it every year. The Bengals, Cowboys, anybody who plays the NFC East has an easy schedule. Anybody, whatever 2 divisions this year played the entire NFC East, you have an easy schedule. I believe it's the South. I know it's the AFC West. It's the AFC West and the NFC South. You guys' schedule is because that, and if that NFC East might be just as bad as it was last year. I think the only two, like, I think the Eagles and Giants both are horrendous. I'm an Eagles fan. I think the Eagles suck. I'm picking them to win this week just because. I mean, I'm not picking the Cowboys over the Eagles. Come on, what do you think I am? But I mean, I think that division's horrible. But yeah, so I mean, if there's a year that the Raiders don't do their mid-season towards late season collapse, it's going to be this year. I still think it happens. I just think it happens. Panthers won last night. I picked them. I mean, I wasn't picking the Texans, especially without Tyrod Taylor. Bills over the Washington football team. Like I said, the NFC East, they're just not good. I think the Washington football team and Dallas are going to fight for the division title, but they're not beating the Bills. I mean, the Bills aren't falling to 1-2. The Bills literally played a bad game against the Steelers, and they're going to show everybody that they really are a pretty good team. Because I think they just played a horrendous. They just came out rusty and sloppy to start the season. Browns beat the Bears. I still think Cleveland's a top 3 team to win the AFC. Win the AFC in general. I think they'll end up winning the AFC North. They're just that good. Like, they're just that. The only thing that they lack is linebackers, and even that, it's not like it's not great, but it's not the worst. I think that the Bills and the Chiefs have to be the favorites to win the AFC. Cardinals over Jaguars, no brainer. Ravens over Lions. Even if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, I'm taking the Ravens. I think the Lions might go 0-17. Wouldn't that be funny? The Lions, after going 0-16, the first year of their 17th game, they go 0-17. I'm taking the Patriots over the Saints. I see it's hard because, yes, I know the Saints didn't have their coaches and they had Ian Book calling subs, which I don't know if I mentioned that. That's hilarious, by the way, Ian Book calling subs. Like, I find that absolutely hilarious. If I was Ian Book, I would have put myself in the game. Like, what are they going to do? You're calling the subs. Like, you're making the substitutions. I mean, I thought it would be pretty funny if he told Sean Payton, yeah, I'm going in the game. You put me in charge of substitutions. But I think the Patriots beat the Saints this week. Giants over Falcons. I don't think the Giants start off 0-3. I think the Falcons have a really, really, really bad defense. Poor Matt Ryan. Did you see, I think everyone saw it, that Matt Ryan has thrown more touchdowns to Mike Edwards of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers than he has thrown to his own receivers. Like, individually. Like, he's thrown more touchdowns to Mike Edwards than he's thrown to any one of his individual receivers. So, I mean, they didn't score a touchdown against the Eagles. I know that. I don't think they did against the Bucs either. No, they scored. Okay, they scored a few touchdowns. I think Matt Ryan probably. What do you have? He had 2 touchdowns. I know one went to Calvin Ridley. It was Calvin Ridley, and my thing will work. What's going on here? What are you doing here, man? Calvin Ridley and somebody else. But I think the Giants are a lot better than they have been in the past few years. I still think they're terrible. I just think that they're better than they have been, which the standard's not high. The standard is not high for the Giants. The Giants don't have a high standard, neither do the Eagles. But I keep going off on the NFC East. It's hard for me to be an NFC East fan. Any Cowboys, Washington football team, or Giants fan will understand, because we were great for so many years. We're the only division that has every single team as a Super Bowl champion. But yet I hate you all. All right, Seahawks, Vikings. Man, the Vikings can't catch a damn break. The Vikings can't catch a damn break. Man, they were so close to winning that game. When I have to play the clip of the announcer acting like they won the game.
Put down, Joseph, come on! It is good! No, he missed it! Good. Are you kidding me? He missed it right.
He missed it right.
Oh, my heavens.
But that video is hilarious to me. I watched that. When I saw that video for the first time, I watched it for like 15 minutes. But I don't think the Vikings are that bad. I mean, I don't think they are. I think the Vikings just suffer because they have a really hard schedule. I mean, they probably should have won that Bengals game, but I mean, the Bengals played amazing that game. They had to make a comeback. Then they ran into Arizona. Then they're running into Seattle. Then they play Cleveland. I just hard for me to see them as a playoff team when they have to play Cleveland, Carolina on the road, Baltimore on the road, LA on the road. They have to play the Packers twice, the Bears twice, the 49ers on the road. They have to play the Rams. Like, they have a very hard schedule. So I just don't see. I mean, I don't know. I know Dalvin Cook got hurt. I don't know how severe. I don't think it was too severe. He missed practice. Is Dalvin Cook playing? He missed practice again. All right, so we're going to find out his status sometime today. Let me see if it came out. But Dalvin Cook, yeah, he missed practice again. He's missed 2 practices, 3 practices now? So, that's not good. That is not good. I mean, I don't think they have a chance in hell if they're playing without Dalvin Cook. I mean, I don't think Kirk Cousins is good. I don't think he's that good, though. 49ers, Packers, this is going to be a very good game. I think the Packers had a lot of weird emotion, weird tension between their team week 1, and they came out and played like shit. But I mean, I know they beat up on the Lions, but come on. I mean, Aaron Jones scores 4 touchdowns. We can't just ignore that. Like, we can't just act like, oh, it was the Lions, so it doesn't count. I think the Lions, like I said, go 0-17, but I mean, although the 49ers, the Lions almost came back on I was loving that game. The Lions almost came back on the 49ers in week 1. They ended up not, but I mean, I just think, you know what? I'm switching my pick. I'm taking the Packers. For my TikTok. This is evidence. It is currently Friday, September 24th at 1:59 p.m. I am switching my pick from the San Francisco 49ers to the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be a really good game. I think that's Sunday Night Football. It is. And then my favorite game of all. I'm taking the Eagles over the Cowboys. Which, by the way, you know how bad we're both expected to be this year? Eagles Cowboys have played on Sunday night for as long as I can remember, and they're not this year. Unless they would play Week 17, they're not. They're playing on Monday night, which is fine because Peyton and Eli, I mean, that is amazing. Anybody who's watched the Peyton and Eli broadcast understands that's amazing. That is some good quality TV right there. But, I think the Eagles can definitely win. I feel like the Cowboys are just the typical Cowboys, and they're going to play to their opponent's level. I don't see the Cowboys blowing anybody out because they played up to the Buccaneers, and I think they're going to play, and they played kind of down to the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers are a solid team. I see them playing down to the Eagles' level. I see it as a rivalry game. I think that the Eagles are a little hurt from last year. I mean, I'm probably speaking from a deep bias I have because obviously I hate the Cowboys and love the Eagles, but I'm never picking the Cowboys to beat the Eagles unless there's money on it. And even then, I might just say, screw it and just go for it. But those are my picks for this week. So, last thing I want to talk about today has to be, it's basketball related, is the Ben Simmons Saga. As a Sixers fan, it's not fun. It's just, what I don't get is what benefit does he get of not playing this season? Like, what benefit does it make him? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to play this clip real quick from Doc Rivers on First Take with Stephen A. Smith.
But you are right. He has 4 years left on his contract. It's in our hands.
Doc Rivers made a great point in that. And it was that the ball is in Philly's court. Philly's going to decide where you go, who you play for. You don't have a no-trade clause. You have 4 years. You want to sit out for 4 years, Ben? I mean, shit. I mean, I don't think the Sixers will hold you for 4 years, but, I mean, it's Daryl Morey. I mean, I love Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey wants what he wants, and he's going to either get it or he's not. And, I mean, Doc Rivers, obviously, he's not going to go on First Take and admit that they're giving up on Ben Simmons, but, I mean, if he said they're not giving up on Ben Simmons, I mean, I'm not going to not believe Doc Rivers. And I think Ben Simmons definitely it just doesn't make sense on why, like, it's not like you have a year or two on your contract where you can sit out for a year or two. Or, like, it's not like you were even the best player on your team. You were the second or third best player on your team. You were definitely not, I can think of probably 3 or 4 guys better than you maybe even more than that, on the Sixers that are better than him on offense. But you are the second or third best player on your team. And it's not all on Ben Simmons. I won't say that. It's not all on Ben Simmons. It's a lot to do with the Philly fans. Because they did the same thing to Carson Wentz. They take bad moments And Carson Wentz had a horrible season last year. But they took that one bad season. They took Ben Simmons' bad offensive play down the stretch and into the playoffs. Sorry, the camera cut out. That was weird. Anyway, they took that small samples and they ran him out of town. They did it to Carson Wentz. They're doing it to Ben Simmons. Because Ben Simmons is a top 5 defender in the league. He's made the All-NBA defensive team, I think, 3 years in a row now? Yeah, 3 years in a row. And he's a hustler on defense. I mean, he's third in the league. He was third in the league last year in tips per game, deflected passes per game, and fourth in the league in total deflections, which for a guy playing point guard at 6'10", you need that. I mean, he gets into passing lanes. He plays well against star players. I mean, last year, the 5 guys he guarded the most were Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, Pascal Siakam, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the only person who played pretty good against him was Bradley Beal. He guarded him in 2 games, and this is broken down based off of when Ben Simmons was specifically on him. Bradley Beal in the 2 games had 15 points on 6 for 14 shooting. That's a pretty good game. I'll give it to him. Bradley Beal got the best of him. But Jimmy Butler, 8 points in 3 games, 3 of 12 shooting. Jason Tatum, 11 points in 3 games, 3 of 11 shooting. Pascal Siakam, 7 points in 2 games, 3 of 12 shooting. And in 2 games, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 9 points, 4 of 10 shooting. And then there was more throughout the season. I remember I was having the same argument with somebody at some point about how I think Ben Simmons has to be at least a top 2 contender for Defensive Player of the Year. And people, they didn't believe me. I'm trying to pull it up right now. What was it? Oh, so as of March 3rd of 2021, he had guarded Russell Westbrook for 7 minutes and 21 seconds, and he had allowed 5 points on 2 of 9 shooting. He had guarded, now this is after he got guarded Pascal Siakam, so it's the same thing. Pascal Siakam, 7 minutes and 2 seconds, 7 points, 3 of 11 shooting. Damian Lillard, he let up 10 points against Damian Lillard and 3 for 9 shooting. He only allowed, He allowed 4 points against De'Aaron Fox in 4 minutes and 40 seconds on 2 of 12 shooting. Luka Doncic, 6 points on 3 of 9 shooting. Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, and Pascal Siakam and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander combined for 50 points on 19 of 60 shooting. It's just hard to think that we have a guy who is a top 5 defender in the league, and people want to get rid of him so easily. And I think he needs to go. I think what the Sixers need to do is they need to call up the Rockets and say, listen, we're sorry we didn't take that James Harden trade last year. We're sorry to the city of Philadelphia we didn't take that, or Philly fans, we didn't take that James Harden trade last year. Because they could have traded Ben Simmons for James Harden, and they probably had to trade Tyrese Maxey and a few picks. I would have loved that. I mean, for God's sake, James Harden's everything Ben Simmons isn't. But we didn't take it. Okay, that's fine. Ben Simmons, he's a top 5 defender. You always want to give that up for a guy who at the time was out of shape. Be like, can we get John Wall? Because I see the drop off from the Sixers with John Wall as there's a drop off, but the Sixers don't get that much worse. They're not going to hurt that much because they now have John Wall instead of Ben Simmons. So that's just what they need to do. Call up the Rockets, get John Wall. I mean, John Wall only has 2 years left on his contract. Ben Simmons has 4 years. So why is this not happening right now? Why am I not getting a notification right now that this is happening? Because it just seems like a no-brainer. He doesn't want to be here. Okay, then get rid of him. And if Ben's going to sit out because of it, you're costing your money yourself. And I understand he probably has enough money to where he doesn't need to make any more. But at the same time, your career is over. You sit out until they trade you and they end up never trading you. Your career is over. I mean, you're going to be out of basketball for 5-6 years. It just doesn't make sense to me. Let's see if there's any trending sports news other than the Ben Simmons saga. Just to touch on real quick. Sorry, I've got to pull it up. Phillies are going to make the playoffs, by the way. I just want to promise everybody that. The Phillies are going to make the playoffs this year. Bryce Harper, if Bryce Harper doesn't win league MVP, like I just lose more and more faith in awards every year of my life. If Bryce Harper doesn't win most valuable player, because there's nobody more valuable to their team in the entire MLB other than maybe Shohei Ohtani and Vlad Jr. than Bryce Harper, and neither one of those guys play in the National League. The Phillies have a fighting chance because of Bryce Harper, and that's why we're paying Bryce Harper as much as we are for as long as we are for this time, for July, August, September, October. Like, this is the time where Bryce Harper is going to earn his money, is this time, because this is when Bryce Harper is meant for. You don't pay Bryce Harper for the beginning of April and May and June and beginning mid-June. Like, you pay him for the later of the season. After the All-Star break, that's when and that's what he's done. He's been the best player in baseball since the All-Star break, and that is, Odell Beckham Jr. will play this week. I'm excited for that because I have OBJ in a couple of my fantasy leagues, and I just like OBJ. I didn't even dislike OBJ when he was on the Giants. I just love he plays with some sort of style and some sort of swagger that I just enjoy. He's definitely not as good as he used to be, though. I don't think he's an elite receiver anymore. I know I see people trying to make that argument. But he's not. This is an interesting one. C.J. Stroud will be benched for... not benched, sorry. He's nursing a shoulder injury, which is keyword for he's being benched. I mean, I saw something on some Ohio State fan about how they need to bench him because I haven't watched much of Ohio State. I don't know how he's playing. I mean, I know Ohio State hasn't been playing that great. I mean, he'll be used as an emergency capacity. So he'll be there in case they're about to lose and they need a quarterback. But, I mean, I haven't watched much of them. I know they had 2 scares against Tulsa and Minnesota. I mean, his completion percentage, he's not playing horrible. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think Ohio State's as good as they usually are this year. And just Ohio State fans just aren't used to it. I mean, he's got 8 touchdowns and 3 picks. Okay, he played pretty bad against Oregon and Minnesota. I'm not Tulsa. Okay, I can see what they mean. I mean, you can't play Tulsa and only have 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Like, that just can't be a thing. Yeah, no, he hasn't been playing that great. I guess he has. I mean, wow. I mean, I think Penn State. I mean, I obviously think Penn State's the best team in that conference in the Big Ten East. But I mean, I am a Penn State fan. But Penn State's beaten Auburn and Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been a top 2 defense over the last 15 years. In their place, first week of the season, we go in and we beat them. Then we go and we play Auburn, who SEC is so good. They're about to show the Big Ten why they're. Yeah, shut up. We beat them. Yeah, it was the whiteout. Still, if the SEC is supposed to be so good, all I heard that week was how the SEC is so much better than the Big Ten. Okay, well, one of your top 5 teams just lost to one of our top 5 teams. I think that Michigan State might be better than them this year. I mean, we got to see, though. We got to see, because let's be honest, they have one other than the Oregon game. And you know what? It's their defense. I mean, their defense lets up 31 points against Minnesota, 20 points against Tulsa, 28 points against Oregon, or 35 points against Oregon. I mean, it's not all on C.J. Stroud in the offense. In the offense. But there definitely needs to be improvement for Ohio State to have a shot to not only win the Big Ten and make the playoffs, to compete for a national championship, because that's a standard Ohio State's held to. Well, that's going to wrap it up here for the first episode of the Sports Raid. Thank you guys for listening, whether it's on Apple Podcast or YouTube. I'm going to be making just random YouTube videos too, like little vlogs here and there, just for fun, just because, I just enjoy making stuff. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.